Okay, I want to welcome everybody here. I'm Sergeant Shawn Roby, spelling the name is S-H-A-W-N-R-O-B-Y, of the Show Police Department. I'm the administrative sergeant, also a PIO assigned for this event. I want to start today out by introducing Mayor Darrell Seymour, who would like to speak first. Once he's done, then I will give you kind of a brief rundown, and then we will take as many questions as I can take or deal with at that time, okay? Mayor.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Show Low City Council and as mayor of the city of Show Low and our staff and our entire community, it's with heartfelt that we meet this afternoon. Yesterday, the city of Show Low lost a great police officer, Darrin Reed. Officer Reed, a 10-year veteran of the department, was killed on the line of duty, doing what he knew best and what he loved to do, and that was to serve and to protect others. Our heartfelt prayers go out to his wife, Kathy, and his children. The family at this time is in profound pain and grief, and we understand their situation the best we can. Our thoughts and prayers are also with the Show Low Police Department, the other officers that were his brothers in the line of duty, and the entire law enforcement community for this tragic loss. Wish to express our gratitude and thanks for the other law officials and other communities who have expressed their concern and deep sorrow and sympathy at this time. We just ask our citizens to unite and to remember this great officer and for the service that he gave to our community. Thank you.
I'm going to try as best I can to hold this together, so bear with me. As Mayor Seymour said, I do come to you with a very heavy heart today. Lost a very close friend and brother. Thought it was going to be better than this. Anyway, I'm not going to release a whole lot more information than the release that went out earlier this morning about 4 o'clock or so, because again, this is an ongoing situation, an ongoing investigation that is continuing to be investigated, but I will help you as much as I can. I'll briefly go over the release from this morning. Yesterday, November the 8th, at approximately 12:03 p.m., officers responded to a disturbance or a suspicious call at the 400 block of West Dusa Clubs. When officers arrived, they made contact with the subject. A confrontation ensued and a short foot pursuit, and the suspect brandished a gun, ultimately shooting Officer Darrin Reed. Subject fled the scene. Officer Reed was transported to the hospital, where he did succumb to his injuries. Subject was later located, where he barricaded himself in a cabin with a 15-year-old girl. The White Mountain Special Response Team, along with several other agencies from the White Mountains, set up a perimeter around the residence or the cabin and began negotiations. Obviously, as you can imagine, due to the long hours and heartfelt situation, we did request assistance from the Department of Public Safety, who sent their SWAT team up to assist and ultimately took over the scene there and took over their negotiations. There was approximately a 6.5-hour negotiation with the suspect. During that time, sporadically, there were shots fired in the direction of officers by the suspect as we were negotiating with him and officers were in the area. Ultimately, apprehension efforts were tried, which resulted in an exchange of gunfire, and the suspect did pass away as a result of the injuries of that gunfire. All the officers were, however, safe, and no one was injured in that exchange of gunfire. As stated, Officer Reed's been with the department since 2006. He's a 10-year officer. Prior to that, he was with the Navajo County Sheriff's Office. Officer Reed is survived by his wife, his son, and his daughter, and of course, we are working very closely with the family because of this tragic event. I do want to thank all of the community for their outpouring of support and concern in this situation. We did bring Officer Reed back home today, and there was a huge outpouring of support for that. As I stated, Officer Reed's not only a husband and a father and a fellow police officer, but was a big member of our community, and he's going to be sorely missed. Darrin, I'll just share with you, was planning his retirement in a couple of months. And Darrin and I would joke all the time about that. Every time he'd walk by my desk, he would stop and look at me, and he would make me smile, and he wouldn't walk away until I did. That's the kind of guy that Darrin was. Darrin was a guy that was a go-to guy for everybody. He was like a walking phone book, address book, a personnel book. You could talk to Darrin about anything. You could say, "Hey, Darrin, do you remember that one time? Or do you remember this guy?" And he could pop off with a name. He would name off their brothers and sisters and their in-laws and everybody else that he knew, because that's the kind of guy that Darrin was, and that's how in touch with the community that he was. I can't say enough about him. But I do appreciate the outpouring of support, and he's going to be so very, very missed very much. There is a candlelight vigil tonight at 6 o'clock at the downtown festival marketplace that will be taking place. It starts at 6 p.m. At this time, we're still working with the family and everyone to set up the arrangements for the services. Once that information becomes available, we'll certainly pass that along and pass it out. I do want you to understand, I will answer questions, but only to what I can answer. This is an ongoing investigation by the Department of Public Safety at 2 different scenes. And so there's a lot of things that I might not be able to answer or don't have the information for, and I will refer you to the Department of Public Safety. So at this time, I will take a limited number of questions, please.
That 911 call, the initial 911 call, I know it was a disturbance, anything, something suspicious happening. Do we have any more details about what exactly led police there in the first place?
No, initially the motel called in, stated that there was some suspicious activity in the rooms, and they wanted the subjects escorted off the property. When our officers went there earlier in the day, actually, they found that there was nobody at the rooms. The officers left and basically told the staff at the motel, if they return, give us a call. So that's when the second call came in to where they said that the subjects had returned, and that's when our officers responded.
So multiple subjects.
Initially, there were multiple subjects in the room when the initial call came in. The secondary call that they responded to was that there was a subject at the location, one subject at that particular time that they knew of. After the shooting and so forth, there was another subject that was located in the rooms, and again, there were several people ultimately involved with the room and the whole situation through the investigation.
There was some confusion last night about the number of hostages. Can you clear up how many hostages?
It was just the one 15-year-old girl.
Is the 15-year-old girl in any way related to the suspect? Do you know any of that?
I do not know their history, and again, that's part of the investigation that they're trying to sort out by interviewing her and so on and so forth.
In the home or the area where they were barricaded, any connection to the suspect or the 15-year-old girl to that location?
No, it was just actually a resort, Lake of the Woods resort, and they were in a cabin there. Someone had rented a cabin, and they were in the cabin there.
Was it a private home? Did they unoccupied?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if it was a rental or a private home or not.
So somehow they both wound up in that location?
Correct. It just led us there. We set up a perimeter, began calling out to him, at which point he identified that he had a hostage. We began negotiations, and ultimately, like I said, Department of Public Safety arrived and took it over from there.
At this point, has the suspect given any kind of indication as to why he did this?
No. Again, and I don't know, obviously he's deceased at this point, so there's never going to be some clarity on that. Again, it's just a terrible circumstance. And I want to go back. I've said a lot about Officer Reed and how tragic it is for Officer Reed, but I do have to honestly say it's tragic for everyone involved, including the suspect's family. I can't say that enough. It's tragic for everyone that's involved, so I do want to add that.
How important was the community to locate the vehicle once it fled the scene and track down the suspect?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, we started getting all kinds of tips and call-ins and information and so forth, and that's ultimately, you know, really what got us where we needed to be. You know, we did have some prior information of possible leads, but yeah, we did have a lot of support and a lot of tips from the community, and we greatly appreciate their support.
Was it shots fired in that area that led you to the scene where it finally took place? Was it shots
To
fired?
the barricade?
Yeah.
No. There were no shots fired prior to us being there and setting a perimeter around the residence and beginning negotiation. At that time was when the shots started being
So
fired.
it was community tips that led you to know where he was?
Yes. Tips and investigation that we were doing that led us there, yes.
And how many officers responded to the hotel, the second call with Officer Reed?
Well, initially there were a total of 3 officers that were there when the initial shooting happened.
Was the 15-year-old with the suspect at the initial shooting?
Again, I don't know that. That'll have to come out through the investigation. Again, I just know that the one subject was there. That's who they got into the confrontation with. That's who shot Officer Reed. He had jumped into a vehicle and fled the scene. I don't know who that entailed at this time or who that was.
Sholo's a small town, and something like this happening. When was the last time an officer was shot in the line of duty like this?
Well, I can tell you, we've had a couple other officer-involved shootings, but we've never lost an officer in the line of duty that I know of. I've been here for 17 years, and I've been in law enforcement for 24 years. I'm going to tell you, this is the first time that's ever hit this close to home. I mean, when it strikes the law enforcement community, we all feel it. But obviously, this is in our house, and we're a small department. You know, we have 32 sworn officers. So something of this magnitude is felt all the way through. We're all friends. We're all brothers and work together and have a very close relationship. So this is very hard, and it's a very trying time for us. We're having to piece all this together and work through it because we haven't experienced it before. And we are getting a ton of support from other agencies. I can't believe the outpouring of support that we're getting from other agencies. There's people from Phoenix PD that are going to come up and help with services and help walk us through all this. We've got other agencies that are here currently covering our patrol schedules and working for us so that we can be available to go through this grief and work through these things. So the support is amazing, and that's it's just breathtaking.
What's going to change with your department now? I mean, this was a major shock. What is going to change for you guys? Are you going to have different procedures out in the field?
I can tell you from the information that I know, there was nothing done inappropriately here. It's just one of those situations. I can't look back on this and say, hey, wow, there's something that we should have done differently. I wouldn't. That's absolutely not what happened. I mean, this was a textbook response. We had multiple officers. We had limited information, and all of a sudden you end up with a suspect that pulls out a gun and starts shooting at you. I don't know how to change that. I can't say that there's anything that's going to change.
How much longer until Officer Reed would have been retired?
I believe he was planning his retirement for February. We had talked about off-duty jobs and what he was going to do and how he was going to enjoy his time, and I can say for myself as an experienced officer, that's the one thing that's really hard for me. Because I'm looking forward to retirement myself. And I'm going to tell you, after yesterday, I just pray to God to get there, because it's not a given. At any point in time, I just want people to understand that, and I understand the state of this country and the things that are going on right now, and it's sad for us to see in law enforcement, and we deal with that every day, and our reputation and what we stand for. And I appreciate the support that this community has always given us. And I think I would like to say that makes me proud as a police officer for the Shola Police Department, that we have that standard. So I just ask everyone, you know, it's everyone's important, and we're trying to do a job, and that's all I can say. Any other questions? If not, like I said, I would just refer you to the candlelight vigil that's going to take place at 6 o'clock tonight at the Sholo Marketplace, which is, if you drive down the Deuce of Clubs, you're going to see the little statue of the two guys playing cards downtown. That's where that will be. And again, we'll put out the information for the services and so forth. Any information that you want in regards to the investigations is obviously going to have to go through the Department of Public Safety. So you'll need to contact them for any information. I know that they're still actively investigating. The investigation is still happening at this time. So again, but I have to refer you to them because that's not our side of it. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you. Oh, hey, I'm sorry. If you're still on, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. There has been a GoFundMe account set up for Officer Reed. And that's how you'll find it. If you go to GoFundMe.com and you put in Officer Reed, you will see it on there. That is a direct link to the family and was set up by a friend of the family, I believe. So it will go to them. So if anybody that wants to make donations can do that. Anyone that wants to make donations at the police department, we are taking those as well and giving those to the family and so on. But there is a GoFundMe account, and I wanted to make sure that was put out there. Thank you.